Phails at philosophy. What the heck could it be? Life such a mystery. Phails.
Welcome to Phails. This is Phails at Philosophy Book Club with Grant Potts. Wave to everybody. This is episode, I don't know.
This is episode I don't know.
Yeah.
This is that episode that could be inserted anywhere.
Anywhere, really, because we're not going to talk about a book.
Right.
But it is a anniversary episode.
I thought so, because I saw like...
Did you get a Facebook
about
thing?
the picture of the book? Yeah.
Our first philosophy book club, at least the first thing I put out advertising it, was May the 10th of last year.
Man, it feels like we've been doing this longer than that. That actually is... I feel like because we meet once a month and we were going chapter, we were just moving very at a luxurious pace. There was nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But I was delighted to see it has only been a year, and that's we got a lot of good conversation in a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been doing this for a year. If we include your original interview where you do your life story and we talk about philosophy, it goes back a little bit further. But the Philosophy Book Club, about a year ago. And so this is our anniversary. We're just calling this our anniversary episode.
That's awesome.
And we have no book because you were bested by
work.
Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist.
I didn't even get enough into it to get bested by it.
Life was pressing, and
I mean, I think actually part of it was I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay, this is not going to be a hard book. Right?
Yeah.
But because of that, I was just like, all right, I'll get to that because I got this thing for work or this thing for work.
Yeah, you just thought it'd be really quick
just need
read.
some sleep. Yeah, and it would have been, but I just,
So, spoiler alert, the next time we meet, we're going to talk
I failed
about...
at reading the book.
Yeah, Grant did.
This is Grant's fails.
Yeah.
I'm moving in on his territory.
How many times did I fail at reading the chapter in philosophy? I read half of it, had notes for a fourth of it. So, this is good. This is sharing that. But spoiler alert, we're going to read Paulo Coelho. Is that how you pronounce Paulo Coelho?
I have no idea.
Paulo Coelho. I'm just going to say it that way. If you guys think I should say it a different way, put it in the comments.
And be really mean about it.
Or email Grant Potts. The Alchemist, which I read numerous times. I read it. I did a graphic novel about it.
You drew a graphic novel for it?
I didn't draw the graphic
novel. Oh, you
novel.
read a graphic novel.
I found one. So I looked at pictures. I did the audiobook. I actually didn't read it. I audiobooked it. I graphic noveled it. And then I watched a bunch of videos where they talked about what it means and what the symbology is and all of that. So I approached it from a bunch of different angles.
And it's I don't know, because what I was reading was just starting with this character.
Yeah, Santiago.
Right. Now, it seems like it's one of those... that genre, almost like Carlos Castaneda's meets.
It's a hero's journey.
Right, yeah. And I'm a sucker for that kind of book.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of those that I've read that I've loved over my life. And this one, I'm really excited to read it because I know so many people. My wife loves that book. A bunch of people in my life have read that book and loved it. But I've never known anything about it except that.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's such a good book. I love that book.
I think it's really appropriate for us now, at least for me now, because, and you'll know more about this when you read the book, I'm trying to find my personal legend.
What are you trying to do that for?
That's what this is. It's finding an adventure in your life that brings you to kind of your true self, or living a life of passion and excitement that's you create yourself from a place of maturity or from a place of your own doing.
Now, do you find the legend by having
the adventure,
or do you really find the legend by being the person who's done with their adventure and chilling and telling stories about that adventure when you're
both
out in the garden?
You can't have one without the other. You can't have one without the other. But yes, he finds that I think the adventure was the... Anyway, let's not spoil it. We're going to talk about that next time. And I'm excited to do it because it feels really... apropos or well placed or well timed for my life and what's going on with the show and all the things I'm doing, because he's got to give stuff up. He's got to really give everything up and put all of his energy, all of his efforts and his money into this adventure.
That's interesting.
Yeah. That's what we're not going to talk about, y'all.
No adventure today.
No adventure. But I do have some ideas of what we could talk about. And then let's share them and then we'll talk about whatever we want. One thing I thought was like we would pull different
You have like oracle cards?
oracle cards. I got Michael Singer's The Untethered Souls oracle cards.
That frightens me.
I like
There's
Michael
like
Singer.
There's like a
He's good.
horse on the cover.
I've got The Artist Way creativity cards.
That holds trauma.
I've got Divine Abundance.
That sounds like it would smother me.
Yeah, for sure. You're becoming negative with all these. I have the Spirit Animal Oracle deck.
Oh no.
And I have Becoming Dragon. And I thought we'd just like go through these and pick cards from each deck and then talk about what we get.
Sounds good.
That's one thing we could do.
I mean, as someone who, you know, how old was I when I started reading tarot? 18? So
Yeah.
I spent 30 years reading tarot. I'm always happy to pick cards and think about them.
Hell yeah. So pull cards is one of the things. The other thing would be to do a list. I want to do one list discussion. And it could be like, it's kind of like I want to do a video that will get a lot of hits. So I looked at all the ones we've done previously that got a lot of hits. And then I looked at like where there's maybe a gap. I did some analytic research in YouTube to think like, how can we discuss towards a gap in what people are wanting?
Did you have a robot help you? Were
Yeah,
you like,
of course. Robots help us all the time now.
Yeah.
You don't do anything without a robot helping you.
yeah. You just got to be careful because they talk to each other now too.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
My phone will like hear me and the robot will be like, oh, did you want something, dude?
Yeah, I was listening to them faculty talk about like AI detectors, which are also AIs, because you know the students are having AI write their papers.
Yes, you have to say, did an AI
now
write
they have
this?
these AI detectors that are also AIs, but then a lot of people are like, those AI detectors are totally unreliable
Because they're AI.
and they're full of false positives and
Oh
they
my
miss
God.
things. And I was like, yeah, like. You're not going to get good data from the robot watching the robot because they're robots.
Yeah, the robots
they're going to work together.
Well, eventually, like,
come on, like
when in the history of maths did they say like, okay, guys, y'all can use the calculator, and we're not gonna try to like test whether or not we think you used a calculator. We're just gonna say like calculators are part of mathing,
right?
When are we gonna do that for English and writing papers?
Oh, it's happening. Yeah, no, that's definitely, at least in the community college. I think it's happening in 4-year right now. Like when I talk to the comp faculty, they're like, we need to figure out how to help students learn how to use this as an appropriate tool and not use it to replace. I mean, at the heart of it is like, you don't want to use it as a tool where your voice becomes the robot.
Yes.
You want
to fold it in a way that it's some symbiotic relationship, right? Like I could see like writing stuff and saying like proofread this.
Or it's really good for ideation. It's really good for generating structure. It's really good for a lot of things. It's a real like AI is a great research tool, especially the AI engines that you find like on a lot of library pages, research library pages now that like will gather the research and give you summaries, but also give you direct reference to the research. So you're not using it to not do the research. You're using it to get rid of those hours and hours of plowing through catalogs and get to the good stuff that you need to look at faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And get your head around it better. Because a lot of times when you're trying to figure out like a field, the problem is just like you can't figure out what to do with all these details you're running into because you don't have the big picture.
Separate the wheat from the chaff. Probably like, what is the good stuff for me? And then like do some kind of synthesis.
Right. So
I had a buddy of mine. I still have him. His name's Charlie. We called him Chatch in college. He's a musician and a producer out in Nashville. And we were at the Kerrville Folk Festival. And I was talking about AI and basically saying like, you know, AI can't, what about these musicians that are using AI to write their songs? Music's just going to be, I was griping. And I expected him to like be on board with me, like that we would gripe together and say like, yeah, I'm old school. I write all my own songs. But he was like, well, you know, I use I use AI a little bit if I'm like trying to come up with a rhyme, or if I'm trying to ideate or be creative. It's a tool that I can use along with kind of my own. And I was a little taken aback. I didn't expect that, but it makes sense. I don't send an email to my co-parent without having the robot go over it.
Yeah.
I don't send an email to pretty much most people get a robot revised email. I'm not a better writer than the robot. The robot writes better than me, I think.
The robot polishes better than you, probably.
For sure.
Like, you probably put together the base ideas better than a robot could.
Sometimes I just give the robot bullet points.
Right.
I'm just like, boop, 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 here are my ideas.
Put it into narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does a great job at that. So anyway, back to this. Lists for beginning philosophers, maybe like 5 books you have to read if you're a beginning philosopher. And that would weigh more on you than on me. These lists are probably
what I would say.
5 philosophers that you have to check out, or some list of 5, an arbitrary number, things, question mark, philosophy.
Why is it always got to be philosophy?
Well, we do philosophy book club.
We got to stay on brand.
We got to stay on brand. Well, hold on. What would you rather do instead of 5 questions? We don't have too many question marks.
Maybe we can make a list of 5 potentially good lists.
5 philosophy lists, or 5.
There you are putting philosophy.
You're right. 5 lists of lists. 5 lists of words.
5 lists of lists that are lists of lists that are lists of lists that
Grant's in a silly headspace today, y'all. Sometimes, if you've watched all of these, sometimes Grant comes in brain dead. Sometimes Grant comes in.
It helps when we start at 10 instead of 9.
Silly. Yeah, we're starting at 10 today, y'all. Okay, so think about that. Lists of something. It doesn't have to be philosophy, but I just thought philosophy would be good because our audience probably comes here for philosophy.
Yeah.
So giving them a little bit of that would probably be like...
You're trying to like attend to your audience and actually have a good relationship with them.
Yeah, I want to have a good relationship with y'all.
Figure out what they want.
You're good people.
Do you guys ever think about what Phil wants, though? I mean, that's the thing. A relationship goes both ways.
Yeah. I think what they think I want is comments that aren't overtly positive. Sometimes they're like, I don't know if this is positive or not. Someone was like, anyway, the comments. Hey, if you guys feel good about what you're watching, send a positive comment. Try that. I know it's probably in society and in life, we're probably more apt to make a comment if it's negative. Yeah, is that like negativity bias?
Yeah, I mean, that's that. Like we noticed the negative, and then, I think I also think there's like a weird charge you get when you like make a negative comment. Like I own that guy.
Yeah,
that guy with all the YouTube hits.
Yeah,
I know better than him because I said something critical. Right? Yeah, it's cheap.
I want you guys.
It's cheap.
I want y'all to practice right now sharing gratitude and appreciation for your host, Philip Jones, and Grant Potts. If you have one, you don't have to make one up.
Yeah.
But if you have one, share it.
Maybe we can make a list of what we're thankful for.
Yeah, let's do a thankful list. 5 things we're thankful for about philosophy. That's funny. Okay. So cards, lists. I want to enroll you.
I actually like that idea.
You do?
The 5 things we're thankful for about philosophy. Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's
there.
Good.
We go. Now we got an activity.
We got a list. I want to enroll you in a rant that I have about kids' mental health system. Not for long. I just want to talk to you about it a little bit because I've got these like ideas rolling in my head. It won't be, blatantly philosophical, but there are philosophical questions that I have about what we're doing with children and mental health. And so I want to talk about that a little bit with you.
Sure.
And I have some ideas about how. Anything that you think would be fun, we could look at your fun socks for a second. Those are like caveman socks.
Yeah, I guess they are.
He's holding a spear.
Yeah.
It's not exactly Fred
Actually,
Flintstone.
no. It's not a spear. It's like a big stake.
He's got, and sometimes a club.
Oh yeah, he's got different things. Yeah.
I like that. He's holding a stake. He's got a club in that one. He's got a spear in this one.
Yeah, I can't wear socks that are boring. Life's too short.
Rant. Anything that you think would be fun for us to do? And fun for the audience to watch?
Not right now.
No, okay. But if it comes, we'll leave space for the unknown, for something to spring. I'll put it there in a circle.
Okay.
Question marks. All right. I'm good with that. You good with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Starting with the cards. All right. I've numbered these cards in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I've jumbled them up.
Mm-hmm.
Pick a number. Don't look at it. You're looking at it. You're supposed to pick a random one. You pick a random number between 1 and 5.
You don't think I'm capable of being random when I look?
No. We're probably not even capable of being random when we try to be random.
Like, are you worried I'm cheating?
Yeah.
Trust me, I do not have a preference.
You're cheating. You got a preference for one of these.
I kind of want to avoid the horse. That just frightens me.
Because of its majesty?
It's just like a horse on a beach, man. Like,
It's like the power, the sheer power of that horse. Look, he's mid-gallop.
yeah, that's not the feeling I'm getting.
It's only 1 horsepower, though.
Yeah. It just like I look at it and I feel like someone's gonna start like,
Dude, hold on. Is that a unicorn?
oh my god, if it's a unicorn, I'm gonna die.
It seems like there might be a little unicorn there popping out of its head.
Oh, I think you're right.
It could be an ear,
I hate
but
unicorns.
for the purpose of this, I'm just going with
I
unicorn.
freaking hate unicorns. And I even like My Little Pony. I hate unicorns.
He's not a brony. He is a brony that hates unicorns, which is
There's an exception for My Little Pony.
There's
They
a
have good
niche.
moral lessons.
There's a niche.
like probably some of the best moral lessons in the world come from My Little
Pick
Pony.
a number between 1 and 5.
4.
4. Becoming
All right.
dragon.
Becoming dragon.
Yeah.
These actually look the most interesting to me because they look like all abstract.
I met this lady who made this deck. She's got a retreat somewhere in Costa Rica or Mexico or somewhere.
Do we need the book? Can we?
Maybe. I don't know.
Let's just make the
put it
book
there.
go away.
She was in Austin, Texas, and she sells these decks, and I bought one from her. She also guides people through a psychedelic journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to her about guiding me through a psychedelic journey. It was too expensive, so I did not do that.
Did I ever talk to you about the since we're becoming dragon, the childhood moment when I realized that dragons didn't exist?
No.
It's so vivid. It's like it was elementary school. I was like 2nd or 3rd grade. And I remember just like I was after school, hanging out on the playground, waiting for my mom to pick me up or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And just like sitting on a jungle gym. There were no kids around. It was a little overcast.
Yeah.
And I was just sitting there thinking.
You came up with that in your brain. You're like, dragons don't exist.
No, I was sitting there thinking.
It wasn't like a science teacher that told you.
I think I was thinking about some cartoon or some show or some book I read where someone had like a little, it was probably more like 3rd or 4th grade because I was beginning to read fantasy and I was reading Raymond Feist's Magician Apprentice.
Okay.
Like one of the first fantasy novels I read. And there's a wizard with like a little pseudo dragon, like a little kind of cute dragon familiar companion.
Okay.
And I think there was like a cartoon and I just really wanted a little pet dragon.
You wanted the dragons to be real and for you to come
and I wanted to ride dragons,
Yeah.
and I just thought dragons were the coolest thing. So I knew they weren't real.
You did?
Yeah, I mean, I knew they weren't real at that point. But there was this.
How did you know? You were only.
I mean,
You were
I knew
very
in as
young.
much as my parents were telling me, and I was.
Oh, they were saying these
Yeah.
aren't real.
Yeah, I mean, like I was 2nd or
Because with
3rd grade.
animals, like, how do we know which animals
Right.
are real or not?
No,
Like,
I was
I'm
in-
never going to see.
I was in a culture where it's like these are fantasy, right? So
Yeah.
but it hit me like the reality that I was never going to ever
Ride a dragon.
ride a dragon or have a pet dragon. And I just was so sad.
Did you just cry?
I didn't cry. I was just disappointed. I wanted a more magical universe than I think I had.
Hand me the box.
You're going to use it a box? What's up with the
I'm
box?
just going to show people the deck.
Oh, that's good.
It's a human being. Her name is Chris Beasley.
Yeah.
This is edition X of Becoming Dragon. Awaken the dragon, it says. The dragon represents a fully awake, alive, and unlocked being. This being takes its fears, will, and drive of sexuality as kindling for creative fire. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I need all that. I'm a fire sign already, so
Kind of went.
yeah, I usually have to cool myself more than heat myself up.
Yeah. She signed one of them.
All right, I pulled a card.
Okay, let me pull one too. We'll both pull one. And then that will give us our discourse. I'm going to cut it once, trusting your shuffle. Okay. I got one.
What are I assume yours has two words, kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of a
they're like
binary.
polarities.
It's kind of a binary.
There's a dot.
And I got the one that she signed.
Oh, wow.
She put an extra
That's
one in here that
auspicious.
she signed. This one. But it's an extra one because I got the one that's
Belonging
from
and
the
avoiding.
deck. I got belonging and avoiding.
So they're almost like opposites. Are they supposed to be opposites?
I mean, let's look at some other ones.
'Cause
You got dogma and blank. You got ancient and impatient. You got exhaustion and rest. You got transcend and comparison, fear and courage. Sometimes they're binaries, voice and choked. Yeah, it seems like that's
Somewhat,
it.
but that's some of them
Dry
like,
and water.
like the binary is also interesting. It's an interesting polarity.
Yeah, it's not chaos and creation, which is like your yin yang, ebb and flow and rigid. So yeah. Okay, you got
That's interesting.
anger and despair.
Despair.
What's that mean to you?
I mean, to some extent, I find the two are deeply linked.
Yeah.
Like, I do think sometimes we use anger as a way out of despair, right? When we're feeling frustrated, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when
Yep.
we're feeling like we've lost all power, we try to like draw on this reserve of violence.
Give me the number. I think
within
that's
us.
true.
And that leads us
What
to
was the
anger. There's a dot.
How many dots is it?
One.
One dot. That's the first one, I think. Yeah. I read that book by Terrence Real it's called, I don't want to talk about it. It's up there. I don't want to talk about it. About male depression, covert male depression. And I learned a lot. And I also read books on emotions. And it seemed like for men, and this might be the same for women too, but for men, sadness was the prevalent, overwhelming emotion. And the thing that our ego does to kind of be with that is anger, is like force. Because expressing the sadness is too vulnerable. It's too scary. And maybe culturally, we don't nurture that in kids.
Well, and especially in boys.
In boys. Yeah.
No. And I definitely, it's funny because like I don't, there's a number of things as a man in my 50s that I'm realizing about myself that are rooted in my childhood, right? And I think the temptation for a lot of us is to try to make that a story about these people or my parents or, like.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's about a broader culture that didn't hold me as a young boy in the way I think it should have.
Yeah.
And the individual actors aren't to blame.
I definitely agree with that. I think going past your parents or your family origin, your caregivers, to a cultural soup
Right.
that everybody's in,
But that's its own kind of like, that's so big. How do you address that?
I mean, it kind of allows you to let it go.
Yeah,
more
I think
easily.
part of it is like, it's not your job to fix it.
Yeah.
It's your job to be there to help do the work to fix it when the opportunity is there, because people are coming together to do that.
Yeah. To change over time.
Right.
And that's what maturation is. That's what growing and learning is. It's saying like, hey, I'm not actually angry. I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
I'm sad that something didn't happen that I wanted to happen, or I'm sad that I feel rejection, or I'm sad that, another thing could be anger could be a response to fear, probably. I'm scared, so I'm going to present. I remember getting into a fight when I was in college with this guy in a restaurant. We worked in a restaurant. He worked in the kitchen. I worked in the front. And it got really heated. And I remember presenting myself as really fierce and big and just real big aggression and being scared. Like I didn't know if it didn't work, if doing this to the mountain lion, all those big movements you do to mountain lions to get them to go away, if that didn't work, like I was getting eaten by that mountain lion, right? The mountain lion, it's a trick that we play on the mountain lion to pretend to be bigger than them.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mountain lion has fierce claws,
Mm-hmm.
talons. I don't know if those are called talons. They got jaws and all that stuff. They could eat us.
Mm-hmm.
And we present an illusion of fierceness. And I remember doing that.
Right. It's interesting. We think of it that way. But I remember listening to an interview with a biologist who studies bears.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about like the getting big, the kind of like all that for bears. And what he said was like, look, we have this idea that these wild animals and these predators are out to get us. And they're very conservative because they don't want to get into a conflict with something even half as big as them, because injury is almost as bad as death if you're in the wild.
Right.
So even if they walk away from that encounter the winner, if you do some damage to them, they're fucked going into the weekend.
Right. They don't go to the ER.
Right.
They've got to let time pass and perhaps not hunt or not. Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, like, yeah, but I think part of it is that we get ourselves into a space of fear where we don't think there's a way out except to confront, except through violence, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a threat of violence or violence. Like, and I can't think of anger as not tied to violence, and maybe that's not right, but that seems to be what anger is. It's that point at which,
well, you're giving someone the idea that violence could occur.
right, and you're getting yourself worked up for violence, whether that's verbal violence or...
Is there a healthy way to express anger?
I don't know. I think sometimes we get into this trap where we're like, we shouldn't criticize our emotions. They are real. And like, anger there are moments we have to do that.
And it has a place in society
exactly.
and in relating.
But I don't think anger has the place, like authentic anger. I think we can do performative anger, and that's healthy, right? Like when you're like, rah, when you're like playing a video game or something. Like, I think that can be done in a healthy way, because we are creatures of violence, right? We're not going to just decide that as human beings we're not creatures of violence.
I don't know that many creatures aren't. It's not even framed as violence, right? Outside of the human context, It's just that is the world,
right? Exactly, and so, but we're also creatures that try to be more than that,
to rise above,
right? But we don't do that by just deciding we're not angry. Or else that's interesting, because I think of this like, it's like, is anger what you get out of despair, or is despair what you get when the anger has nowhere to go? And it seems like both need a space to move.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that's why I think, that's part of like why I like D&D, right? Like,
Because you get a place to
'cause
play
it's
with
like-
those themes
right,
in
like
a safe, healthy way.
It's like murder hobo like craziness where you're like fighting dragons and
Yeah.
like, and it's a way to express that part of what it is to be the animal self of the human, and
I like that.
and do it in a safe environment where it's really about having fun with each other, and there's a joy to that.
Maybe this is the argument for violent video games.
I've always felt like it was. I mean, and it's not that, like, I think you have to be careful with that, right? It is like you can inhabit those spaces in a way that just then feeds your own violent nature.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be intentional about this as a release and as about a way of finding joy.
Yeah.
Like
Craig Tennant, the shadow worker that I interviewed, he had a pretty cool quote about anger. Well, he said, like, if you have problems with anger, it's going to come out sideways in your life if you don't address it, if you don't, like, really look at your anger. And so he said, be angry on purpose and find ways to be skillful and purposeful with how you express your frustration with people. That's one thing he said. The other thing he said was, if you have a dog that bites, you don't teach it not to bite. You train it to bite on command, and you never issue the command, which I thought was cool.
yeah, that's an interesting that
He's talking to discipline,
right, and part of it is like identifying when you have those things, and I mean, I don't like, it's not the best language, but those things that we could think of as toxins about who you are, right?
Yeah.
What do you do with those parts of yourself? Like, they're truly part of who you are.
You have to accept them and love them.
You have to accept them and love them, and you got to find a place for them. But you got to find a place for them that they no longer toxify the rest of the system.
Right.
I like in like Tibetan Buddhism, the notion of like Dharma protectors, where you take that wrathful energy and you use it to protect your work, right? And but those also, like, again, it's like it's tricky because then you can just, you're like, this is my Dharma protector, so fuck you, I'm mad, and just be a jerk.
I got avoiding and belonging, which is kind of a binary. It is a binary. You avoid or you belong. I don't know. Yeah. How does that one
What does
land
that mean
for
to
me?
you? Yeah.
I guess I don't think of the binary. I think it'd be a little different. For me, it'd be like included or excluded. It's kind of adjacent to that.
Kind of.
Belonging and avoiding is like one of them. I'm thinking of it's like, it's not my choice. I always want to belong. I only avoid out of some, well, I guess in my older age, I'm learning to avoid more. And I think that's intelligence, discernment of saying like, hey, this isn't for me. So I'm gonna opt out of something. But historically, I've wanted everybody to be my friend, regardless of their character, or even through prior to any evaluation of their character or whether or not I wanted to be influenced by them. I just wanted them to be my friend. And I wanted to be in every group, regardless of thinking about what's that. It could be bank robbers. It could be, and it'd be like, I just want to be included in this group. So I think that's how I'm making sense of this. The older I've gotten, the more I think avoiding is important.
Interesting. Do you think there's any part of you that when you're experiencing being excluded moves to avoidance to protect yourself?
Yeah. Absolutely. When I was younger, you it's like this remedy to rejection. Oh, I actually didn't want that person, or I didn't want to be a part of that thing. And then you amplify, or not you, I amplify the negative traits that before didn't exist. But I've got great mental gymnastics. I can find negatives. I can find things, which would have been great in a balanced pro-con discussion about it, as opposed to a remedy to rejection.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I like these book cards.
You do? All right,
Yeah,
next deck.
it's an interesting device to do those two, and really look at the oracle, the insight, as a play between the sort of set factors.
Thank you, Chris Beasley,
Yeah.
for making this deck. Okay, pick 1 through 4. I hope
3.
I hope we get the. I'm
You're
not
gonna
looking.
cheat.
I'm not looking.
Yeah, but you know what they feel like.
1, 2, 3. Animal spirit card. I'm gonna. Oh, what animal do you think Grant Potts will get? Okay, these are the animal oracle deck. Hey, tell the people who made this.
You're gonna make me put my glasses on.
Yeah, smart Grant arrives to the party.
Colette Baron Reed, the Spirit Animal Oracle. The spirits residing in the natural world have much to share, and the secrets of their forgotten language are now available to you.
That's right, baby. We're doing the spirit animal deck. I've got my card here. You can cut it. Hand it to me. I might need to get the book out of there, unless we can just talk about the animal. Ooh. This one's good for me. I got a good one. This one's perfect. what was that weirdo laugh?
Peacock spirit.
Oh, you peacocking, homie?
Nah, I love peacocks.
Are you peacocking?
I've always loved peacock as like an animal energy.
And those socks are a little bit peacocking.
Yeah.
You kind of peacocking with them socks.
I also always like the link between like the peacock and that kind of peacock angel. Do you know the kind of peacock angel myth? It's kind of an image, sometimes in kind of 20th century, like not in actual Yazidi lore, but in 20th century kind of fantasies of Yazidi lore. Do you know the Yazidi?
No, what's Yazidi lore?
They're a people in Iraq who are kind of somewhat related to Islam historically, but they're not Muslim.
Okay.
They were
Islam adjacent.
yeah, and they've suffered a lot at the end of the 20th century. But they were kind of a lot of occult writers in the 20th century because there was an early kind of exploration of their religion and whatnot.
What's it got to do with peacocks, though?
The peacock angel as an image of Iblis, of Satan,
Ooh.
as kind of, but also as the object of veneration.
Veneration means
Like they were presented as like these sort of Muslim Satanists, although that's not exactly what they are. They're not like the peacock angel represents it. Yeah. So there is that kind of like connection to a kind of
what does
Luciferian,
veneration mean?
like worship, right?
Okay, worship, veneration. Gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And so
they were worshiping.
You see the peacock angel as this sort of image of Lucifer as both the light bringer, but also
What number's that?
the noble kind of what do I want to say? Yeah, the ostentatious.
Yeah.
Right? Like the peacock, right?
The peacock.
Both in its greatness and in its flawedness.
Yeah, because when predators around, you don't want to be big.
Right.
Let it shine.
Yeah.
Let
you
it
take up a lot of
shine.
space when you're a peacock, and sometimes that makes it hard for other people to be in the same space
Yeah,
with you.
I don't think we have to read this. I mean, I think that we know about peacocks.
Yeah.
It's like it could be for a romantic, like to an attractive mate.
You're right.
Because the peahens are very bland.
Yeah.
They're basic. But the peacocks, they're, they're colorful, huge feathers. They put them out there.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's interesting. I like peacocks and I like that sort of image and that I don't identify with it.
Do you peacock?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Yeah. I mean, maybe, but it's never a way, like I usually feel like I'm exhausted when I'm in moments where I'm supposed to, or feel like some sort of expectation, either for myself or others, to like peacock, right? To be like, but I think, yeah, in little ways, but they're not like my flashiness when it manifests is more about, it's not peacock.
It's not. What is it?
It's more for me than anything else, right?
For you?
Yeah.
Like,
There's like
it gives you feelings of courage. Like, is this like
there's a security it provides me in feeling like I am able to retain a sense of my uniqueness in a world that sometimes feels like it wants to erase that. Right?
I wonder if this is similar to, men probably do this too, but for some reason the idea of women doing it is coming up. When they go on a date, they put on like a fancy underpants set.
Right.
That only they'll see, unless the night goes, fabulously well. But that gives them some courage or some feeling of like, I am a sexy or desired person.
It's interesting because like when I think of like, I don't like a fancy, well-presented, colorful display.
Mm-hmm.
I like a rough, kind of patchwork, colorful display, right? That's kind of the aesthetic I feel more comfortable in. There's got to be a level of like, this is thrown together in the moment for the fun more than for the I'm trying to impress you.
Right. Yeah. One seems like there's a fakeness to it, a facade. Even though with a peacock, that is its natural way.
Yeah, I think that's
it. It is not pretending.
And the thing is, like, it is doing exactly that thing you were talking about. It is getting big to say to predators, back off. That's what it's about for the peacock. Like,
is that a predatory like defense? Or
yeah,
I thought it was just to get the ladies to know, hey, I've got a big feather.
I mean, I've always I don't know the biology here, right?
Yeah, me neither.
I just know that like when I've gone to that park,
Mayfield,
and you walk up on the peacock, and it's like it seems to be saying, back off, human, not like I want to mate with you.
Most of the times they're up in those trees or on the roofs,
right?
Mayfield's is a park.
So it might be both, but yeah, there seems to be at least part of that.
It's a park in Austin where people have weddings a lot, but they've got a lot of peacocks running around at Mayfield's.
Yeah.
So if you're in Austin and you want to hang out with peacocks, go to Mayfield's.
You know where else has peacocks that I love?
South side, over just west of South Congress. There's this neighborhood that has peacocks.
Is there a neighborhood? No. Radha Dam.
What's that?
The Radha Krishna temple down in Dripping Springs.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I've never been there. I've heard it.
It used to be Barsana Dam.
Okay.
Yeah, you've never been there?
No.
That's a beautiful place.
I should go.
Yeah, they've got this beautiful
Theravada Buddhism?
No, they're Hindu. They're Vaishnavites.
Oh.
And so it's a Radha Krishna religion. So they worship Vishnu in the image of Radha, as best as I understand, in the image of Radha Krishna, of the relationship between Krishna and Radha as a divine pair.
Ooh. I should go check that out.
And they've got a beautiful grounds that with like these 7, I think there's 7, but there's a series of kind of like parks and gardens that represent the forests of Vrindavan, which are the forests that are where Krishna, as a young cow herder who was sort of playing with the gopi girls, played. And it represents the divine play of Krishna.
I like that.
Yeah, no, and they've got lots of peacocks, and I love those peacocks. That is another reason I like peacocks, is because I love Vishnu, I love Krishna, and I love the association between peacocks and Krishna.
I have been dabbling in the Veda and the Upanishad texts as of late because of the Yoga Sutras. In order to understand the Yoga Sutras, I or the people that have been teaching it to me fold in the Upanishads, the Vedas, because it seems like it was all this stuff was happening around the same time, and that provides the context for these discussions.
Have you dug into or encountered or done anything with the Bhagavad Gita?
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that war with the generals.
That is one of my favorite, both spiritual and ancient philosophical texts by far.
We should maybe do philosophy book club about that text.
Oh, I'd love to read. I mean, I've read it a lot. I read it as a young man. I read it I've taught it to my students. So yeah, I love that text.
Yeah.
I love that text.
Let's do it. I got grasshopper spirit, which is perfect for me. Take a leap of faith.
I love grasshoppers.
Sometimes I think about what I'm doing as like a frog.
Yeah.
And I'm like in the air and just hoping there's a lily pad on the other side. Because if not, I go in the water, I get eaten by a fish.
Yeah, but watch those grasshoppers. That like sometimes they end up in the water and they just swim out and they're fine.
That's true.
And they don't get the lily pad. It's a little harder situation.
Yeah, but they
fine.
figure it out. They figure it out. They struggle a little bit.
Sometimes they get, and you know what else happens? Sometimes they land on the lily pad and the frog gets them.
Yeah. So I got grasshopper spirit. I think it's perfect. Dude's got a crown on.
Yeah.
He's got a crown. That's a majestic.
These are like ostentatious cards. These are like, yeah, rocket. You're at the top of the world.
Grasshopper spirit. I like that.
I mean, I can't help not hear that in the idiom of grasshopper. Do you remember that old show, Kung Fu?
Oh, yeah. Young grasshopper. Like, I am the student. That's perfect, too, because in all the relationships I have with the people that come on my show, I place myself in the position of the student, of the young grasshopper.
Yeah.
With all the yogis that I bring in, with all the shadow workers and the dietitians and the fitness experts, I am the student.
Yeah. That's what I love about pulling cards, is just the kind of weird connections it helps you make.
That's what we're
between
doing.
a lot of different things that just give you good insights into each of those things.
I'm the student and you're the peacock. Okay. Pick a deck between, let's mix these up a little bit. Pick a deck between 1 and 3.
3. That was one. That was the first one you pulled.
Well, I mean, I think
The Untethered Soul.
This is Michael Singer wrote a book called The Untethered Soul. And I like that book. I've actually read it numerous times.
I'm just saying, when I think Untethered Soul, I think of like in like 1970s books about astral travel, they like have this notion that like when you're projecting yourself out into the astral plane, you got to visualize this cord back to your body. And if it ever gets severed, you're lost forever.
Oh.
So, I mean, untethered means floating away into the abyss.
That's right. That's scary. That's scary.
And maybe for good reason.
Having gotten into the Yoga Sutras, it reminds me of his work.
Yeah, and these look like they're quotes.
They are quotes.
Yeah, I kind of like
book.
that.
From the book.
I'm not sure about this like unicorn, man.
I know.
Look. When I look at all this myths about unicorns, they're like supposed to be these pure creatures. They got like they're totally mad, like that old movie Legend. Like they're perfect. But every time they come into the story, it always results in a situation that has you like with your girlfriend chained by some giant demon thing in the basement trying to sort this shit out.
Yeah.
Like they are not all there.
They're bringing struggle.
Yeah.
Same with Pegasi.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about Clash of the Titans for a second. I mean, that's such a good movie. The original Clash of the Titans, Pegasus that like took him to the...
Was that what you loved? I loved the owl. I wanted the owl.
And Kroll. Oh yeah, the owl from Clash of the Titans. I'm gonna pick one too.
I recently rewatched Kroll.
So good.
It is so bad.
It didn't stand the test of time.
It is so amazing. I mean, like I watched it and I was like, I totally understand why my like 6-year-old self thought this was the most amazing.
But it's not that good.
But it's just
horrible.
Terrible.
Oh,
it's
man.
terribly acted, terribly shot.
I'm gonna do mine first. So there's words on the front of the card above the unicorn or horse. It might be a horse, and that might be
I
its
see.
ear. Awakening consciousness is my words, and my quote is: meditation is the highest state. It is the return to the root of your being, the simple awareness of being aware. Yeah, what does that mean to me?
The simple awareness of being aware.
Simple awareness of being aware. Gosh, this reminds me two things. First thing, samadhi. I guess I'm into the Yoga Sutras now, so I just think of like, oh, he's talking about
Is it samadhi, or what's that stage right before samadhi?
the dhyana.
Yeah, because
I haven't memorized all of the
I don't think
Ashtanga
samadhi
limbs.
is that state of being aware of being aware. It's that state where you've moved beyond that.
Yeah.
It's that, I think it's that stage right before,
Where you have an ego.
because you still need an ego to be aware of being aware,
Right.
even as it is a step into
Yeah.
kind of, because samadhi has more release.
Right. You have an idea that your mind is empty, and that itself is an idea that's in your mind, proving that it's not empty. That's the ego hanging back,
Right.
or being there. But you've kind of made it subservient to that saying the mind is a good helper but a poor master.
Yeah. And that seems to be indicating that's the most fundamental space of being.
Yeah, highest state. And the other thing I think about is how frustrated I am when people tell me to meditate in a way where I turn my awareness around on itself. I just think that they're just messing with me.
I think they are, yeah.
Because can the eye see itself directly?
Yeah, they're just messing with you. I mean, I actually think they don't say that to anyone else. They're like,
Probably not. Well, there's
"Today,
other people in the room.
since Phil's in the room, we're going to do that."
We're going to do this, but we all know
we all know.
this is a bunch of
Hey,
hogwash.
Phil just went to the restroom. So let me tell you, I'm going to say, have your awareness look at itself.
Yeah.
I know it's total bullshit, but Phil's going to eat it up.
Yeah. And leave no crumbs. That's what the kids say. You can't do that. You think you can do that?
No, I think that's a set of words that help you get to a state of consciousness.
Oh, it's a trick.
It's like the finger pointing at the moon. Yeah, I think a lot of times when you get into those kinds of instructions within meditation, they're not describing the state. They're describing a way to think about the state to try to help you get to the state.
Yeah, I think you're right. What'd you get?
Going beyond.
Going beyond.
You are a great being who has been given a tremendous opportunity to explore beyond yourself. Yeah. I don't know if I'm a great being, except that I'm a human being, and I think humans are great. So I guess in that way, I mean, I think that is what it is to be human. And to embrace what it is to be human is to recognize that to be human is to have that greatness that we can associate with being divine or being a legend, or being, like all those things. But that is about moving beyond yourself. I feel like right now, I experience that a lot with my work, with my job.
You do?
Yeah, just because I'm in a very different and new space, and I'm settling into it enough to be like, one, very excited about, like when we were talking about learning and being in a space where you're learning a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely a space that all my work as a professor, as a scholar, as someone who has spent most of my life up to this point really studying human information systems, is then put in a place to help manage large, complex human information systems that do very specific things.
Yeah.
And that technical, practical dimension of it, I've always been up here, and I'm still up here because I'm like in a space where I'm in the weeds with the practical dimension, but I'm more supporting a lot of people who are truly in the weeds. That's the technicians.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of my work there is taking what I learned in a space where I was faculty, which is very much being being a good faculty is about being a good faculty. Like you have to, part of why it was a struggle for me when I started is because I have a lot of social anxiety. I mean, I'm the person who used to, in college and high school, walk up to a party, look at it and be like, really want to go to the party, but I'd like walk up to the party and just see all the people. I'd be like, fuck this, I'm out. And just turn around and go home.
Oh, man.
Like, I just I couldn't handle it, right? And so when I started teaching, especially, or presenting research or all that, like even now after 20 years, like when I was teaching my ethics class this semester, because I teach like one class this semester, like that first day walking in the room with the students,
you feel that anxiety.
oh my God. Like, so I don't like people looking at me, going back to the peacock.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, the whole job is having people look at you.
They have to look at you.
Right? Even if you're having them look at you to get them to look back at themselves, to look back at the material, to work with each other, you're the director, you're the conductor if you're faculty, right? Yeah. So years and years of that, now moving into management, which is kind of like that, but kind of not. Because if you do that in the same way as faculty, yeah, it's a different thing. Like, because it's not about you. And like, if you're,
But it's definitely beyond you.
It's definitely beyond you.
Speaking of that card, it's like,
yeah, so
you're reaching beyond yourself.
I have to be in the work, but I have to be outside of it enough that I don't get in the way of the people I work with or the people who work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I find I'm really finding that challenging in an enjoyable way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's teaching me a lot about myself, right?
Nice.
And a lot about like getting away from myself. Yeah.
All right. We're gonna do the artist's way as the last one, and I'm gonna pick this one for me.
And which one are we missing?
Which one are we missing?
Yeah.
The divine abundance.
Yeah, we don't need abundance.
And then
there's too many tariffs for that.
You tell me when to stop.
Go for it. No, stop.
Right there?
Yeah, sure.
So then this is your card right there.
All right.
Here, take it.
Oh, is this another one with like words on it?
Yeah. So I'm going to do mine first. Let's see. This is the Artist Way, Julia Cameron, the Artist Way creativity cards. I got art is process. Remember that art is process. The process is supposed to be fun.
Well, that's good. I think this is total bullshit. We are spiritual sharks, the ruthless truth, so that if we don't keep moving, we sink to the bottom and die. I think that's just toxic.
That's like hustle culture?
Yeah, exactly. Like, screw that. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm fighting against that. Like,
we gotta have rest. We gotta have
I'm
times
a restless
where we
human
chill.
being. My problem is I don't take enough time to stop. So like
well, Julia Cameron, you can't win them all. You took some shots here, but spiritual sharks, we don't keep moving. We sink the bottom. Is it like? I don't think she's saying that we don't rest or that we don't have recuperation or downtime. I think she's saying spiritual, there's some taking on different spiritual ideas throughout your life. And if you like get stagnant in the ideas and say like, oh, these are the spiritual ideas I'm going to have forever and not be open-minded to, I'm just trying to figure it out.
You're being very generous. I appreciate your generosity.
All right. I want to do the rant. That's card time.
That was card time.
That's card time. I want to do my rant because I value your opinion. I value your opinion.
Okay.
And I want to like bounce off my rant by somebody that I trust. And that's a friend of mine. This is a rant are a conversation about mental health and kids and our current system. The system we're talking about is like the emergency room, mental health units, residential treatment centers, partial hospitalization programs, intensive outpatient programs, all of these things, all the way to like therapeutic boarding schools. And I think it's a broken system that doesn't work. And I want to start the discussion with this. We treat our troubled kids the same way we treat our criminals. We consolidate them, we coalesce them, we put them together in places where they enter into the system with one challenging behavior or maladaptive coping strategy, and through mingling and being influenced by the other troubled folks that are there, they come out with 3 or 4. Because now we're very social beings. And instead of putting the one troubled person with a bunch of people that aren't troubled, so they get influenced in a lot of positive, healthy ways, they get the benefit of the coping strategies of folks that have adaptive coping strategies. They're conversing and making relationships and socializing with people that have challenges. So they get influenced by challenged people. So I think the criminal justice system in jails is similar to the mental health system in that we're putting troubled kids around troubled kids, isolating them all together, telling them, hey, don't make friends here because these people are troubled. But as humans, we want to make friends and build relationships everywhere we go. So that's almost like an impossibility. We are influenced by other human beings that we're around. It's just ignorant to put them in that situation and say, don't make friends.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot going on there, right? One, I'd want to be careful, right? I don't know, because the theory of influence that you're describing, I don't know what, we have years and years of studying different kinds of interventions and what actually produces better outcomes, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't know that. Like we can have our story as you and I talking about it, about what is good, what is bad. To some degree, I do tend to feel like we live in a society that is built off suspicion of expertise to our detriment, because we like to come up with a lot of ideas about how things work or don't work when there are experts in the room who hopefully, hopefully, let me get to the second part, right? Because that's going to be the caveat, right? Hopefully doing their best to understand the system and build the best systems they can to do the thing they're trying to do, which is, I do think for most mental health practitioners working with kids, like having taught the people who want to go do that work at the beginnings, like they want to go do that work because they want to go help kids.
They want to do good.
Right. Yeah. So that's my caution.
Yeah.
Right. That's my caution in being too quick as an uninformed amateur to diagnose the problem.
We don't. Asterisk is Grant and I haven't read the research.
Right.
Neither of us are professionals.
Right.
And I'm sharing from my kind of subjective experience,
Right.
having,
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many places where we have, because we're parents.
Yeah.
We're responsible for children in an absolute way. So there's a level, like when I take my kid to the doctor, when I put my kid in school.
Yep.
I, have that responsibility to keep an eye on it and make sure it's what our kid needs. That's also balanced with the responsibility to recognize, for example, when I'm thinking about like what's going on in the classroom.
Yeah.
I'm an educator. I'm not a middle school educator.
That's right.
Right. And I know some people do their job better than others. Right.
Yeah.
I know the system looks wonky in ways. I can see how I work in a system that is wonky in its own ways. So where I am an expert, which is in community college processes and institutions. Like I know that field well now. I know I can talk to you about a number of fundamentally different ways in which that system is broken.
Right. Let me pose this real quick.
Yeah.
If I want my kid to be a good skateboarder, would I take my child to an empty pool with a bunch of professional skateboarders,
Right.
and let her hang out in that empty pool of a bunch of good skateboarders and learn from them? Or would I take my child to a pool that's filled with water with a bunch of swimmers that don't know how to swim and some person trying to teach them all how to swim at the same time? When I don't want my child to know how to swim, I want my child to know how to skateboard.
Right.
Learning it from professionals. When I came up wanting to be a good racquetball player in college, I wanted to be around the best racquetball players. I wouldn't surround myself with people that were struggling at it.
Yeah, I just don't know that mental health is an excellence. I don't know that it's like skateboarding is an excellence.
But it's definitely skills that we have, right?
Some of it. I don't think mental health is just a set of skills we develop. I think there's a larger, more complicated, when we're talking about, because you're not talking about the mental health system in the way the mental health system relates to kids who just need a little bit of mental health support, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about the mental health system that is there to intervene when you're in crisis. Now,
Yeah.
that said,
But I just wonder if, just like self-help,
well, and
sometimes I feel like I've gotten trapped in a self-help lens, like a self-help prism, where if I would have just lived life, I could have unraveled things and figured things out.
yeah,
It's like a cult.
yeah. I mean, I think sometimes like we're not in a state where self-help is going to pull us together. We're in a state where we have to have systems that
And interventions.
And interventions. Like it's just now going back to what you said though, like when you're describing what you're seeing, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like the problems I'm dealing with in community colleges. That's the problems I see in our schools. That's problems, and especially around these spaces of formation, because I do think mental health is about formation in the way that education is about formation, which is more than learning a set of skills. It's also about developing a sense of self, a sense of character, and I think that is it. We have and formation takes place. You're absolutely right. I think through relationships, through exemplars, through
Models.
through retreat time for yourself,
Right.
through reflection, and there's a lot that goes into that. And we have developed in these educational and health spaces really what is an industrialized process, right? The problem that was trying to be solved that got us to the point you're talking about is a problem of scale, right?
Yeah.
We have lots of kids who need lots of help, and we have limited resources. How can we scale this?
And it's the same as school.
Right.
We never looked at it and said, what's the best for a diverse range of folks and kids? And let's redesign it. Let's just keep going down a pathway.
I don't think that's true.
You don't.
I think there absolutely was a desire to make it the best for a diverse set of kids, and a realization that the ways it seems that you can do that are extremely resource intensive.
Yeah.
Right.
And probably money intensive.
And so,
which resource equals
right.
money.
So that means an educational system that's only available to people who have those resources. So how do you scale it so it's available to everyone?
Yeah.
But that becomes, But I think the problem at the heart is insisting on these industrial assembly line models, which at their heart are about controlling the situation so we can hold ourselves accountable for certain outcomes, instead of letting go and letting more. I mean, when you're talking about like, wouldn't these systems work better? Maybe there does need to be a space of isolation and intervention that is very acute like that. But are we doing enough to also make sure those healthy relationships are part of it, and we're not putting someone in a mental health facility so they can get access to therapy and monitored pharmaceutical care and whatever, when they also really need good, healthy relationships with other kids. And we're telling
very
them,
important.
Right. So maybe it's not that we need to throw that model out, because it might be important for scale. It might be important for scale, but how within that can we make sure that that happens? Or maybe it can't. And then maybe we do have to look at it and say, do we have to do fundamental change?
I think the thing that needs to be really included in mental health is this holistic approach where we're really thinking about how food impacts mood, nutrition, how that impacts mood, how that impacts energy throughout the day. We all know being hangry, there's common tripes in our society that demonstrate the importance of food or lack thereof on the emotions. And we're adults and we get hangry. And we got kiddos, and I think there's something with our food systems that impacts negatively some of these kiddos. And so I think looking at nutrition, I think looking at movement, having them, some dogs need to be run a bunch every day. They need exercise in order to be healthy. I did this, and I know we're not dogs, but bear with me. I watched this dog trainer that said like most behavior issues with your animal can be solved by running them, by exercising them throughout the day, kind of every day too. And it hits two or three different things. Number one is you're spending time with them. You're giving them attention. Number two, they're moving their body and they're getting tired.
Yeah, no, I absolutely think so. Yes, and
that leads to the third one, which is sleep hygiene. Because if they're tired, they're going to go to sleep, and getting good sleep is time for your brain to restore, your body to restore, and to like meet the new day rejuvenated.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at the broad issue of mental health in our kids right now, and it's hard to tell whether, because people say we have a mental health crisis with our kids right now.
Yeah,
I see that, but I also look at what's going on with our kids. And for all the problems and all the struggles they're having, it looks a hell of a lot more healthy than what my childhood was like, when all that was happening and no one was even talking about it as mental health, and bullying was just understood to be how you get along with each other and sort it out, right? Like we can't, like, so I don't know that we have a mental health crisis that's new. I think we have finally a society that's looking honestly at what's happening with our kids and seeing the mental health crisis that has been there since the dawn of humanity.
I'm reluctant to use the word crisis for anything just because I realize it's such a news type of buzzy thing. But I will say that the standard American diet, sad, is leading to a lot of adverse physiological things, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, heart disease.
We don't know that. We don't know.
I think we do.
We don't know that because our it's like the friggin' autism and vaccines and expanding oxygen.
I think our diet is, it's lifestyle though.
I'll get back to that.
Okay.
Right? We don't know that. 100% we could have a better diet, but we don't have to be in a narrative where we've gotten so much worse. Because like when we look at the history of diet, our diet today is far better than the diet that was accessible to most people in the 1950s in terms of balance of nutrition.
Yeah, but it's got a lot more stuff that wasn't there though.
Sure, and I think there's good reasons to be suspicious of those. But when I dig into the research, the level at which it is often amplified. So all of that I think is true, and there's no question, a good diet, good sleep hygiene, good exercise should be more centered
than medication, or at least balanced with medication
on the base level.
Yeah.
Right. I think we would have healthier young people if our schools focused on healthy diet.
Yep.
Focused on looking to physical education and physical exercise.
Movement in conjunction with learning. Yeah.
An important foundation for learning, precisely for the reason.
Yeah.
Now if I go and exercise, I am much more able to, sometimes in my job, I have to sit down and just do 3 hours of math on spreadsheets to figure out how certain things are interacting. It's a complicated mental task.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% better able to keep that focus, do that if I am well exercised.
Absolutely.
As a human, right? So that's like, I know that's a human thing. And sleep. Yeah. All those are great. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's why I say it's a yes and that doesn't mean in crisis situations, even if we could have prevented the crisis with this, we don't need more extreme interventions.
I think, yes. The gripe I have is that these aren't prescriptions that are being provided by these people to the household. Like,
Yeah.
and I asked them for it. I'm like, hey, what is the best? Because a neurodivergent kid, these kids are different. They might need a different diet. They might need a different, just like all dogs are different. Some dogs are fine just to lay around all day and they don't need to be run out.
But that's not their job. That's not their expertise.
Well, I think we need someone that has that job.
That is our job. That is our job as parents. That is our
to
job
figure out what the nutrition is best for our kids,
right.
to figure out what the exercise. No, I think that's our job as a society to give recommendations when we see certain
absolutely.
behaviors.
But I wouldn't put it on the mental health system that exists for.
Well, number
that
one, the mental health system is coupled with the medical system. Well, and they're together.
Yeah. And so what I would step back and say is like this mental health, the problem I see is we look at mental health as crisis intervention, right?
I think it's a lifestyle. A lifestyle is brought them to that point, and we see a blip. And I think we should look at it functionally, holistically, integratively.
Right. So we have a mental health system that looks at it as crisis intervention, right? There's an acute mental health breakdown. We need to get in there and fix this person.
Right.
And the reality is we need that, right? We do need that.
We need that, but it needs to be more holistic.
But this system cannot be our mental health system. This system needs to be, that's like saying we're going to live healthy lives just by having ambulances, right? And emergency rooms.
Okay,
we need holistic mental health.
I'm going to hone us in a way that I think might be helpful. If a rose, you're a gardener.
Right.
If a rose doesn't bloom, you don't go over there to the rose and start massaging the bulb. You don't go and, change up the leaves and bend them towards the sun. You would look at the soil. What's your potassium, nitrogen, magnesium? You look at where is it in orientation to the sun? Did I plant that in the right place? Do I need to move this potted plant to somewhere where it gets more sun? The environment is as important, if not more important, with regard to why it is or is not blooming than the rose itself. And I'm saying our system as it is way more focused on the rose, molesting is probably not a great word, but messing with the rose to get it to bloom and looking very little at the environment that the rose is in. I really would much rather all those mental health people going like, hey, let's look at the households that they're in. Let's look at what's going on there, because when they leave here, they go right back into those environments. And the environments need to be...
Do you really want your mental health professionals coming into your house? And
if it led to the rose blooming, I want them to help the situation.
Right.
So I 100% do want them coming into my household. If I've got challenges with the way that I'm approaching, consequences, if I've got challenges the way if I've organized the house, if I'm too strict on this or that or the other, I want influence. I want prescription. I want I want that support.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it yes. So let's go back to the gardening metaphor.
Yeah.
Kind of. I will speak as a gardener.
Yeah.
If you've got a sick rose that isn't blooming, maybe it's the soil. But you're a good gardener. You've been monitoring that. What do you do with that rose?
But you're monitoring yourself and calling yourself good or bad. It would be blooming if you were good.
Not necessarily. Some roses just don't bloom without an enormous amount of intervention. You know what you do as a gardener? You pull that rose and you install a new rose. Good gardeners don't sit there and try to get sick plants to come and come and come. But we don't have that option with our kids.
Yeah.
Right?
I felt a lot of sadness when you said pull the rose. I just thought.
Yeah, we don't have that option. So the option we have is to say, can we mess with the bulb? Can we get this? Can we get at the level of the organism?
Pull the plant.
Because sometimes the problem is the environment, but sometimes the problem is the organism.
And we don't want to I don't want to live in a world where that's true.
But that's
especially when it's my
Now, that
child.
doesn't mean like once we're there and the problem is the organism, that problem that's at the level of the organism was not there because we didn't manage the environment well. And I don't mean we as parents. I mean we as a society.
Yeah.
And so 100% we need to manage that environment well. But that doesn't mean once the problem is in the organism, we're going to fix it with the environment. We might have to fix it at the organism level. And that's hard and that's scary. And that brings a lot of risk. And that's, yeah.
The quiet part out loud, or the reason this is front of mind, is because my co-parent wants to send our kiddo to a therapeutic boarding school.
I think if I were in that situation, it would be challenging, right?
I don't want to lose my
Right.
kid. I want to believe that we can figure it out.
But and I think there's a lot of things like that do it well, and there's a lot of things like that do it poorly because they're industrialized. So I mean, you can fight it, or you can say, hey, is this an opportunity to make sure if this is going to happen, it's going to happen in the best way it can?
Yeah.
And it
my
may be
belief
that
is
this
she's gone to these residential treatment centers and they've discharged her,
right.
having found that she's able to be discharged, and then she comes back to the environment and struggles.
But isn't that what a residential boarding school is about? It's or a boarding school is
Therapeutic boarding school.
therapeutic board is about making sure that there's a therapeutic environment.
But at the same time, when I try to schedule more therapy when she's here, the people that are supporting her say, "Oh, that might be too much."
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't get this. You're saying it might be too much for me to schedule 2 family therapy sessions in a week, but you're wanting to put them in a therapeutic boarding school where they'll get presumably therapy every day of the week.
Yeah, but it's a different thing. I mean, it's not that they're getting therapy every day in the week. It's if it's done well, it's where the environment is set up to be therapeutic,
yeah.
which is different. But that, I mean, I 100% think you have good reason to be cautious and suspicious looking at that. Just like when you're looking at a assisted living facility for a elderly parent.
Yeah.
Right? They can be toxic spaces.
Yeah.
They can be very healthy spaces. And it's hard to tell which is which because we don't have good systems of evaluation. And there's all of these financial incentives that lead to vicious incentives to run it wrong, right? And so
there can be toxic households. You know,
there's toxic households.
I've thought about it's the way that I'm parenting toxic. And there's a story of the prescription might not be the toxic part, but the way that it's framed or the way that it's, I'll say it like this. I don't believe in corporal punishment. I don't believe in spanking my kids. But when you talk to folks, some folks were spanked and are fine with it. They feel like it was good for them. It helped them in their life. And then other people, it's trauma. So what is the difference between someone that received that prescription, and I'm using corporal punishment just because it's...
I think it's a good thing because
because it's the frame or the perception of the event that occurred to them, not more so than the actual prescription itself.
Yeah, I think it's a good example because, again, my own one, there's just so much overwhelming evidence around corporal punishment in particular.
Being negative.
Yeah. And then my own experience with those people I've known who are like, I was spanked and I'm fine, that I've been close to. I've been
and they didn't know how they weren't fine
when they realized that they were
fine.
Deeply not fine, and they thought they were fine because they had been so traumatized that they buried it. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how that relates to the root question, but yeah, I think there are some things that work better than others, and there's some ways we consistently damage each other that we should avoid.
Yeah.
And the hard thing is like, I think, and what I find is also consistent about those people in my life that were on that train, they were often parents who spanked their kids.
Yeah.
And really what they were trying to do was tell themselves a story.
It was okay with that
it was okay.
It. Yep.
And on a certain level, it was okay because that's what you learned was the way to be. And you can't beat yourself up. And it's hard with your own kid for having been that way you can only recognize, you got to take it as information.
Right.
This is something about myself and my parenting I need to change.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how that relates to the question about the mental health environment directly, but I think it relates to the discussion of toxic households and toxic parenting. I think in all of these, what's dangerous is not being willing to be honest with yourself.
Awareness.
About, it goes back, and an awareness, and an awareness that is open to recognizing that you've been looking at it in a different way.
Yeah.
And that different way that you've looked at it the whole way may be wrong. And
right.
that kind of like, sometimes that phase change is very disrupting because you're like, nothing fits together anymore.
Yeah. Well, then you look back on your past and your parents with a new lens that if you're not able to forgive or to accept that they did it a way that wasn't optimal, then I like find myself reaching for words that are graceful for people, but
the perfect is the enemy of the good. And I think that's most important in parenting.
Yeah.
I go back to a friend of mine who is a research psychologist in Norway, who works on kids, right? He studies how, especially troubled kids with major mental health, like how we have systems that support them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his job, exactly what you're talking about. And he used to write a lot about kind of this broad range of resource on kind of like, if we begin to dig into our best large-scale evidence-based studies of what produces just the best outcomes in kids in terms of parenting styles and approaches to parenting. One of the things that I found most interesting was parental confidence was one of the most, especially for young children, the most predictive positive outcome.
Parental confidence.
Right. That like, your confidence that you're able to be like the most important thing you can do as a parent is just believe in yourself. Right.
Yeah. And because you're modeling your children to believe in themselves.
But you also have to do that without pumping yourself up so you're not
arrogant,
being aware of how you can do things better.
Right. You have to still be aware and open-minded to change.
And I think with our kids, we want to be perfect for them.
Yeah.
But being perfect for them is the worst thing we can do. We have to be good. We don't have to be perfect. I think, like people say the perfect, is the enemy of the good.
Yeah.
And I think that's true. Like they are opposites.
Yeah.
Because perfection is a sharp sword that cuts through life. And goodness embraces.
The joy. It can kill the joy.
Yeah. It can kill everything.
Yeah.
Because it's all about getting to that place up here.
Yeah.
Right?
The pinnacle. In conclusion for this episode.
So did you feel ranted?
I feel ranted.
Okay, cool.
I just wanted to talk about it with you. I ranted about it on my own on the status update, and I just thought, man, I really want to bounce this off of Grant or somebody.
Yeah.
I think we end this anniversary episode with the list of things we're grateful for.
Oh, yeah. About philosophy.
About philosophy.
All right, you first.
What am I grateful for about philosophy? Man, I took the philosophy off of it. Now I have to think, what am I grateful for about philosophy? I think it has me thinking about whether or not something's true or not differently. Like when I churn. And sometimes even silly things. The other day we were at yoga, and the yoga instructor, I love her, Jennifer Coates. I interviewed her. She's going to be someone I interview often. She said that she heard a story about the catacombs of Edinburgh and how someone's nether regions were groped by a ghost. A guy was groped by a ghost. And I said, yeah, there's probably some spicy ladies down there. And she said, well, it could have been a spicy guy. And I was like, there's no gay ghosts. And she was like, what do you mean? Of course there's gay ghosts. And I was like, no, once we've left this mortal you know, the bindings of. Anyway, I went into this whole thing, and we ended up having this discourse about whether or not there could be K ghosts that happened for a while, and it was funny. Right? I think it's hilarious. But then in my mind, it started philosophically churning on this, like, okay, if consciousness, like if they go back to, you know, what is consciousness? It had me kind of like think about it through the lens of all of our discussions. So I say all that to say,
There are totally gay ghosts.
I don't think there's gay ghosts.
I mean, if there's no gay ghosts, then there's no spicy lady ghosts either.
Yeah, I'll agree to that. Yeah, that's true. Well, because there's no gender.
Exactly.
Anyway, we can't digress into this. What I'm thankful for is a framework for looking at questions and thinking about the world that has come through our discussions.
So that's one?
That's one. Your turn.
Oh, we're doing one each?
Yeah. Well,
or are we doing five together?
each? Yeah.
What am I grateful for philosophy for? It has, I think one of the things I am grateful for is over the course of really, I've studied philosophy as an adult, right? And coming into my learning, my understanding of the world, I feel like I had these two very different ways of knowing. And one was math and one was language. And philosophy gave me a way to see how they connect.
The bridge.
Right? As a single system of knowledge. And that, in so many ways, has been a gift of a kind of discord and disharmony that was at the root of just how I related to the world.
So you're grateful for its bridging ability to bring worlds together.
Yeah, and specifically math and language as ways of knowing. Yeah.
I have a similar one for 3. I'm grateful for the social aspect of philosophy. Our discussions are the consistency of it. Getting to meet once a month and talk and spend time together. It gives us kind of like a jumping off point to relating and to interacting and adding depth to our relationship and practicing being social.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting when you look at ancient philosophers, it's so clear. In the two traditions that I'm most familiar with, which are the ancient Greek tradition and the Chinese tradition, that friendship is understood to be fundamental to philosophy.
Yeah.
And fundamental to knowing your world. Like we don't know our world in isolation. We know our world together, and we know our world together through a kind of bond that in the modern world, I think the word friendship captures best.
Well, yeah, we share our maps.
Right.
There's that saying, the map is not the territory.
Right.
But when I get your map and when I validate or cross reference my map to your map, I say, oh, okay, well, maybe the bush is over there a little bit. Maybe this thing's over there. Maybe the road's a different place. Right.
And as importantly, we recognize that we're always, even as our conversation helps us get a more common map.
Map changes.
It gives us also the experience, oh, that's right, I'm working with a map.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I put too much emphasis on the map as the real, it gets in the way of connecting with you as a friend because you got a different map. And I'm not your friend if I say, dude, get on my map.
Right.
I'm not your friend. And you're not my friend and I'm not your friend if I'm just like, all right, I'll throw out my friend map.
I'll go to your map.
There's a way in which friendship captures a relationship of knowing that fundamentally rejects subservience. Because a lot of our models of knowing are like, I am at the foot of the master, and they're models of subservience. And knowledge doesn't come from subservience, because subservience kills curiosity, it kills exploration, it kills all the things that lead to ongoing knowledge. Friendship gives us a way to think about that.
If I am the more student-oriented person in this dyad, what do you get out of it? Do you learn stuff from our discussions? Do you leave like, oh, I learned something from Philip?
Yeah, 100%.
You do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
What kind of things?
Everything.
Everything.
And like everything. Like it's just like I
so there is a sharing of maps. Because I started questioning, do I share my map with you or do I more look at your map?
Because I am trained as an academic, and academic work is done in our modern world through presentation of claims and supporting those claims in clear and direct language.
Yeah.
I speak with a confidence of understanding that is actually me kind of laying out these maps to try to get them as clear as possible. And sometimes I think people mistaken that for, this is my map, I'm the knower.
As opposed to it being
but it's
malleable.
It's always provisional to me.
Right.
And I think I know this too, because I work in an environment where I'm constantly helping all our non-faculty staff relate to faculty, and faculty tend to be trained to speak in these strong declarative sentences.
Right.
And they're just like these assholes, like they're just so stuck up. And then they get defensive, and that creates all these problems on the relationships. But at the end of the day, it's just that, no, this is how they're thinking and working. They're speaking provisionally. This is a way knowledge work is done.
Kind of like, I think doctors have to learn how to speak confidently with authority.
Right.
And that faculty probably have to have the same thing.
Right.
They have to speak with authority.
Right. And there's an authority to it. And it's also an authority that allows you to lay out the claims clearly.
Yeah.
To examine them. Right. Yeah. I mean, not that there aren't arrogant, stuck-up faculty, right?
Yeah. Just people.
Like it's and that kind of authority kind of attracts people who have that disposition anyway. So you do have that factor. But yeah, no, I mean, like when I just taught, we're at the very end. I have one more week of my ethics class with my students at Austin Peace Academy. And yeah, I've learned so much from them. Mm-hmm. And some of it's been the very unique perspective of having a philosophy class, a college philosophy class that I'm teaching in a Muslim high school with kids who are from devout Muslim families.
Yeah. And
the perspective they bring to ethics from that particular perspective.
Yeah.
So there's something enormously, but it's not, and on a level, it's not on another level, it's not that different from my experience of how much I learned last time I taught ethics, dual credit ethics at Round Rock High School with just a general population Round Rock set of juniors and seniors, because that's usually what we have in ethics. And
okay, your fourth one.
I learned so much from them.
Fourth gratitude, because we're coming up on, we're past 12.
Yeah, we're good. That, I think, I am grateful for philosophy giving me a opportunity in my life where I got to see and get to see so many creative minds, because I became my status as a philosopher is as a philosophy teacher. Yeah. Right. I'm not a research philosopher. I'm not someone who sits there and tries to write big philosophy books and stuff like that. More than anything else, I'm grateful that it has given me a life where I've gotten to spend so much time seeing so many minds, developing minds, not just young developing minds in 50-year-olds, because they're like, hey, what's this philosophy stuff, right? To be there to witness that, to be there to see other human beings understand what it is, not just to know, and to try to get better at understanding how we know things, which is at the root what it is for me. Like understanding how do we know things, whether those are moral things or things about reality or things about analytics, like, and that refinement of that comes with it. But at the heart of it, to fall in love with that, to learn how much it is that knowing is an act of love, that knowing is an act of union with the object of knowledge, right? And that, like, to a certain extent, even when you're doing something really analytic like geometry, what you're doing is engaging in an act of love where you open yourself to the reality of what a perfect circle is, the reality of what the Pythagorean theorem is, and it feels like love, right?
Yeah.
It is love. And I get to see that happen. I get to see people fall in love with that moment of understanding and that experience of connecting to the universe
Yeah.
and loving the world at a different level. That's incredible. That's been rich for me.
Yeah. Yeah. The next one for me would be similar to that in being kind of almost a whetstone for my brain.
100%.
Something that allows my brain to hurt a little bit and to not understand, and then to overcome not understanding, whether it's when we're having the discussion or whether when I'm editing the discussion, I'm like, oh, that's what it means. And then like later on, oh, that's what it means. Just being able to comprehend, much like when I was in college at music school, comprehending Thelonious Monk, the jazz pianist, that I thought, oh, that's herky jerky, and that doesn't make any sense. The way he's placing the way he would place the notes, it just felt wrong.
Right.
But my brain just wasn't advanced enough to understand how right it was.
Right.
And that's what happens with philosophy for me, like understanding concepts, my brain hurting, and then thinking like, okay, now this makes sense more. The world gets bigger.
Yeah, no, I'm with you with that. That is the sweetness. That is the, like, I mean, it hurts at times.
It hurts.
Right.
You got to read the sentence 4 or 5 times.
It's humbling.
Yeah.
And it also, that hurt, that humble, that refines the analytic engine so that you find you've got a sharpness
Yeah.
that you didn't have before. You have an insight that you didn't see before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's learning.
Any other gratitudes? That's been 5?
And that was 5.
All right.
All right.
This has been Phil Phails at Philosophy Book Club with Grant Potts, the anniversary edition, 1-year anniversary episode.
Looking forward to the next year.
We talked about, I'm too. I'm looking forward to another year of this. We talked about how we're going to read Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist next. We pulled cards from The Artist Way, from Untethered Souls, from Spirit Animals, from the dragon one, somewhere down here, Becoming Dragons. We talked about the mental health industry as it relates to kiddos, and we shared gratitudes. So thank you so much for viewing. If you have any comments, positive comments or negative comments,
Or things you want to express gratitude for.
yeah, you guys express your own gratitude.
Especially if there's any gratitude you have about philosophy.
I doubt Grant looks at the comments. Have you looked at any comments?
No, but Phil occasionally sends them to me.
I will send them to Grant. Yeah, if they're good, or if someone thought I was right about the bandana. It was about the bandana.
You
I
also
think.
send me things where people are like, that guy totally, like, do you remember that historiography comment?
Oh yeah. Where the person defined his.
And I was just like, this is such an example of someone who operates in a very constrained knowledge space, who thinks that space's use of a word is the only use of the word.
Yeah.
I remember that.
But thank you so much for viewing or for watching this. We're gonna keep doing it. Yeah. We end with a hug.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
We got to move the mics, but that's part of it.
Yeah, boy. This was good, Grant. Give me a hug. Oh, it's good to see you.